A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's story, Josiah, was written by Irv Tunick and features Betty Gard and Leon Janney.
In the synagogue on Simchas Torah, on this day alone, the children under 13, those not yet confirmed to the law, are called to join in the blessing of the Torah, with flags or candles in their hands, with oceans of pride and vast mountains of dignity. They first stand beneath a prayer shawl canopy spread by the eldest of the congregation, and later march up the aisles and down again, bridegrooms of the Torah. They love this day, for this is their day. They love the coming of Simchas Torah. There is a special fire in the young. They take their joy in fulsome doses, and their laughter rings like bells.
Find me if you can! Find me if you can!
Your Majesty! Where are you, Your Majesty?
Over here! Over here!
Your Majesty! Please! Please! Your Majesty, come back!
Find me if you can! Find me if you can!
Your Majesty! Your Majesty!
Let them try to find me. Let them just try. This is my forest, all of it. Let them find me in my forest.
Josiah.
Guard! Guard!
Why do you call to the guard, Josiah? Are you afraid of me, a woman?
I am king of Judah.
What a little king for so large a land.
Who are you? What's your name?
My name is Huldah. I am the wife of Shalom, the son of Tikvah, the son of Haras, keeper of your Majesty's royal wardrobe. I dwell with my husband in the second quarter.
Why are you in my gardens?
Will the king not share the shade of his trees with his people?
It is against the law.
Oh, against the law. It is a trespass. Is that what you mean?
I will call a guard.
Because of woman trespasses? Some in the army because of a woman? What manner of king are you, Josiah?
I am king of Judah.
Are you king of the land or king of the people?
I don't understand you.
How little you are, seeing you close. Well, you're just a baby. I have a son your age. He has the same wild hair, the same wrinkle to his lip when he's angry. When he is like that, I have a trick to make him laugh. I wonder if the trick would work with you. Do you know what I do?
What?
I tickle the tip of his nose, like this.
Don't do that.
Sometimes I have to do it twice, like this.
Don't, that tickles.
Or, on rare occasions, a third time, like this.
Don't, please. But you shouldn't be here. If my guards were to find
They will not find me if you don't call.
I won't.
Good. Then we can sit down and be friends. I have some pears. Will you have a pear, Your Majesty?
Why, yes, thank you, I will.
I know I mustn't keep you long. Soon it will be time for the evening prayers.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
Don't you go to evening prayer at the temple?
Sometimes not.
But shouldn't you always go? As the king, you must set an example for your people.
My uncle Matan, son of Manasseh, who is my uncle, he says that it is just as well for me not to pray in the temple. He says that while some of my people pray to the God of the temple, many others pray to different deities, to the moon, to the sun, and to the idols of Moloch. My uncle Matan, the son of Manasseh, who is my uncle, he says that a king must be a good politician, that he must not offend any of his people. He says that because we pay tribute to Assyria, we must accept the Assyrian deities. He says that our God cannot be a very mighty God. Otherwise, why would he have permitted Assyria to be triumphant and Israel to be vanquished?
His tongue is a fang and his words are poison. Josiah, little king, what do you say in the temple when the ark is thrown open?
I say, Hear, O Israel, the Lord my God, the Lord is one.
Say it again, and again and again, Josiah. Say it until the rhythm of its truth beats against your heart like the sea beats upon the shore. Oh, my little king, how can I hold my tears? So small, so sweet and small. And yet on your tiny shoulder rests the eternal fate of your people. Josiah, the Lord God of hosts has not been vanquished. He has been forsaken. The terror that has come to Israel is not of the weakness of the one God of hosts, but of his anger. We suffer not from the oppression of others, but from the wickedness of ourselves. Do you understand that, Josiah?
I think I do. I'm not sure.
Your Majesty! Your Majesty!
Oh, the soldiers are coming this way. You'd better go.
Tomorrow, when the sun slants low through the western gate, I will come again. Will you be here, little king?
Yes, I will be here.
And the next day, too?
I will be here.
Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign in the kingdom of Judah. And this precious inch of land, this remnant of a promised land, this fraction of the kingdom of David, it was a land sorely beset and agonized. The temple still stood in Jerusalem, a haunted place, defiled by graven images and unclean. Around were the monuments to Israel's perfidy, the altars to the hosts of heaven, and the sacred groves where harlots danced and firstborn sons were slain. And over this land reigned a tousled-haired boy. He was Josiah, the son of Amon, the son of Manasseh, and Manasseh was he who had done that which was evil in the sight of the Lord.
Have you been waiting long, Huldah? I'm sorry.
Rest a bit. Your breath comes in whirlpools.
It was hard to get away. I think my uncle suspects something. He has assigned to me twice the number of guards.
And how did you get away?
I ran twice as fast. What is it today? What story are you going to tell me today?
Today, I think I shall tell you about David.
I am of the seed of David.
And someday you shall reign as befits a son of David. Now, get comfortable.
Tell me about David.
Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle. And they were gathered together at Sokol, which belonged to Judah. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched in the vale of Elah and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span.
6 cubits and a span? Why, that's as high as the statue of Moloch in the inner court of the temple. A man that tall. Imagine a man that tall.
And he had a helmet of brass upon his head. And he was clad with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast taunted. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee.
Well said. The words a king should speak.
And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, slung it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead. And the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David.
Only a sling. He slew Goliath, and only with a sling.
And the love of God.
That's a wonderful story. David was a champion, and I am of the seed of David.
Little king, little seed of David, is your heart brave enough to face Goliath?
I can face anyone. I am the king.
Goliath still lives, Josiah. Still lives in the palace and in the temple. His kind are still alive. And the children of Israel cry for a champion to rid them of Goliath.
Who are they? Tell me their names, Huldah. I will stand against them.
Their names are all the names that deny the oneness of God. Josiah, your people have been led astray. Lead them right again. For the fury of God is like the crush of a mountain, the cascade of the winds. Josiah, little David, go out against the enemy and let truth be the stone in your sling.
I will, Huldah. I will be the champion of my people. I swear it to you, Huldah. I too shall slay Goliath.
And so it was that the king of Judah, the little king of Judah, heard the music of his people's history. In the proud heritage of his people, Josiah, king of Judah, found strength. And as he grew, as his blonde hair slowly darkened, as his eyes took on wisdom, and his arms took on flesh, as he grew, he was nourished in the heritage of Israel. In the palace, within the walls of the palace of the kings of Judah, Matan the regent and Nathan Melech, high priest of the cult of Moloch, saw the signs of Josiah's growth, and they did not like the signs. They were afraid.
Does the new troop of dancing girls meet your majesty's approval?
I was not watching, Uncle. My thoughts were elsewhere.
You are overburdened, dear Josiah. You've taken on so many tasks. Would it not be good to travel to the shore for a holiday? Nathan Melech, what say you of that idea? Do you not think it wise that His Majesty rest a bit from his labors? I've suggested a holiday at the shore.
Good idea. Fine idea.
We could start at once. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the Sabbath.
So it is. So it is.
Sabbath? What about the Sabbath?
One must rest on the Sabbath.
Oh, poppycock. Why shouldn't one rest on any day that one pleases to rest?
The Sabbath is set apart to the Lord. It is His day, and to share His day is the joy of His people.
Now, you say to me that this certain day, this particular day, is different from every other day. Now, in all humbleness, Your Majesty, may I inquire how this tradition came about?
It is so written.
Written? Written where? On old parchments and ragged fragments. How do we know that these customs are truly the wish of God? Is there an official document and an edict and an order with His royal seal? I've never seen it. Have you, Your Majesty? Have you ever seen the royal seal of the God you worship? Now, tell me if you have. Tell me of its design.
Its design is a field of harvest set against a blazing sun, with birds singing sweetly and children counting the stars, and men dreaming of justice and mercy.
Oh, fancy talk. Show me the law. Show it to me on parchment with the seal of your God. Until then, more wine.
How can I answer this unanswerable argument, dear Huldah? What am I to say? Where is the law written? How do we know it is the law?
It is written in the tears of our people, on stone with agony. It is written.
But the people ask for more. They want more.
Last night I had a vision, Josiah. The scene was a desert, wild beyond description, a loathsome place. There I saw the stump of a tree. It was rotting, and it seemed to swarm with vermin. I wanted to draw back, run away, rid my eyes of the torture of the scene. Could not. Instead, I was drawn. Irresistibly towards the stump I was drawn. I cringed as I came close to it, when suddenly... Josiah, listen. Suddenly I felt my hand reach toward it. Imagine the horror of it. But my hand crept forward. It fought against the muscles that would pull it back. It reached forward, then plunged within its bark. And then, Josiah, the scene changed. The desert was no desert. It was a wheat field in the golden wealth of its pregnancy. The vermin were no more. They were butterflies and bumblebees. My hand came out and I held... Josiah, my hand held a gem of untellable beauty. It was not a diamond, nor a ruby, nor a pearl, but all of these in one. And its brilliance flung spears of blazing light into all the distance. This was my vision.
What does it mean? Tell me what it means, Hulda.
In time you will know.
When?
In God's good time. But you will know it, Josiah. You will know it with the sureness of knowing when day turns to night and night turns to day. Be ready, Josiah. The time is soon.
And it came to pass, in the 18th year of his reign, that Josiah summoned the scribe Shaphan. And he said to Shaphan,
Shaphan, this day, during the forenoon, I walked within the walls of the temple. What I saw was beyond all sadness. The walls are cluttered with cracks, the ceilings sag, and everywhere there is the feeling of ruin. It is not a fit place to worship the Lord.
What is your will, sire?
Go you to Hilkiah, the high priest. Tell him that I command that he sum up the money which the keepers of the door have gathered of the people. Let him take this money and deliver it into the hands of the workmen that are charged with the care of the house of the Lord. Let them repair the breaches of the house. Let the money be spent for carpenters and masons, and to purchase timber and hewn stone. Go now and do as I say.
Within the temple, within the walls that closeted the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Lord, within the temple Shaphan spoke to Hilkiah the high priest, and told him of Josiah's wishes.
Blessed is the King of Judah, who this day looks to the house of the Lord.
Let there be no waiting, Hilkiah. See that it is done at once. His Majesty will be pleased at the rapid progress of the repairs, Hilkiah. Already the columns stand firmer, and there is a glow to the temple.
It is true.
The king is waiting now for my report.
Do you go directly to his chamber?
Yes, right now.
While cleaning in the lower chamber, a place no one has visited for so long that the spiders had woven a curtain over the door that was as thick as a man's arm. In this chamber we found a book, an ancient book. The king might find it to his fancy. Bring it to him if you will.
What manner of book is it?
It is a book. What it is written in its words. Bring it to the king.
It would please your Majesty mightily to see the change that is being wrought, how the gilt shines again, and the lattice work is clean of grime. The people are coming in crowds to witness the work, and their faces are as bright as the gleam upon the walls.
It is good that they are pleased.
Hilkiah, the high priest, has sent you this.
A book?
An ancient book he found in a long-hidden corner.
It has the smell of age.
Shall I place it in the library, Your Majesty?
Yes, put it away.
Is there anything else, Your Majesty?
No, Shaphan, not at this time. I'm tired. All day I've had to listen to my uncle and Nathan Millich. They would have me bow lower than I have already bowed to Assyria. We need their protection, they cry. If Assyria protects us, then Egypt will not attack. Why do the people of the Lord need the armor of Moloch? Go you about your work, Shaphan.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Shaphan.
Yes, sire?
The book. Wait now. Before you place it away, let me hear some of its story. Read me from the book, Shaphan, a passage or two. Indulge my curiosity.
Yes, sire. These are the opening words. These are the words which Moses spoke unto all Israel beyond the Jordan, in the wilderness, in the Arabah.
The words of Moses? Is that what it said, Shaphan? The words of Moses?
And it came to pass in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moses spoke unto the children of Israel, according unto all that the Lord had given him in commandment unto them.
Give me the book. Let me see it.
Here, sire.
And Moses called unto all Israel, and said unto them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and the ordinances which I speak in your ears this day, that ye may learn them and observe to do them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. The Lord made this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us, who are all of us here alive this day. The Lord spoke with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of the fire. I stood between the Lord and you at that time to declare unto you the word of the Lord. For ye were afraid because of the fire, and went not up into the mountain. Saying, I am the Lord thy God, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The law. The written law. We have found the law.
How can we be sure? How do we know?
Shaphan, listen to me. Go you quickly to Hilkiah, the high priest, and together go you to Huldah, the prophetess, who dwells in Jerusalem in the second quarter. Ask her. Ask Huldah, is this the sign?
Say you to the man that sent you, Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel.
And now, as it is written, the king sent, and they gathered unto him all the elders of Judah and of Jerusalem. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests, and the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood on the platform, and made a covenant before the Lord, to walk after the Lord, and to keep his commandments, and his testimonies, and his statutes.
I swear to this with all my heart and with all my soul. Hear, O Israel, the Lord my God, the Lord is one. I call to Hilkiah, the high priest.
I listen, O my king.
I call to the priests of the second order.
We listen, O king.
I call to the keepers of the door.
Command us, O king.
I call to my people. Bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, for the false gods, for all the host of heaven. Rid the temple of this pollution. Now, do it now.
And now, within the walls of the temple, with their bare hands, flinging themselves upon the idols, digging their fingers into the masonry of the images, until the blood ran down and the flesh hung loose. Not knowing pain, but only knowing joy, they sang as they destroyed. And the idols tottered, hung for a moment in space, and then crashed. And so was the law returned to Israel. The words of Moses, as commanded by the Lord of hosts, was given again to Israel. And, as it is written of Josiah, he did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord, and walked in all the way of David his father.
now we take pleasure in presenting Mr. Reuben R. Kaufman, prominent civic and Jewish communal leader and member of the Board of Overseers of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, speaking from Chicago. Mr. Kaufman.
Josiah, youthful king of Judah, would be but another name on some forgotten page of history were it not for his rediscovery of the Torah, the Book of the Covenant. Influenced by the teachings of the prophetess Huldah and inspired by her faith, Josiah once again brought the Torah to his people as a guide for righteous and joyful living. This emphasis on the Torah as the key to moral rebirth comes on the eve of Simchas Torah, the traditional festival which celebrates the annual completion and concurrent recommencement of the daily synagogue reading of the Torah. The festival symbolizes the significant fact that the Torah is primarily addressed to the individual. The book of Deuteronomy, which Josiah rediscovered, is a great charge by Moses to all the people of Israel, but in it, Moses speaks to each Israelite individually. Likewise, the Ten Commandments, which are the basis of both the Hebrew and Christian religions, are addressed to the individual. The ancient teachers of Israel noted this and repeatedly reminded their people that the Torah was given in this form because upon each person's obedience or disobedience to the precepts of the law rested the destiny of the entire people. The question is, how can people of today, you and I, be made to appreciate the significance of their individual behavior and to participate in the effort for national as well as world peace and understanding? The answer to this is also found in the lesson we learn from the upbringing of Josiah and from the Torah which he returned to his people. In this very season, Americans of all faiths, and the Jewish people in particular, are rededicating themselves to the principles which were dramatized in our program, namely the Religious Testament and its study. All American faiths are celebrating Religious Book Month, and in addition, the Jewish faith is consecrating its young to Jewish education, as this also is Jewish Education Month. Throughout the land, this time of the year, our religious schools begin the sacred responsibility of educating our young people in the teachings and history of our tradition. Young Josiah's life dramatizes the importance of rearing our children from their earliest years with a complete, a wholesome, and genuine Jewish education. This need for religious education of the young and for renewed dedication to religious teachings is what Josiah discovered. This is the lesson of Simchas Torah.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Like a copy of today's script, please send your name and address with 10 cents to cover the cost of postage and handling to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. Our Eternal Light drama today, Josiah, was written by Irv Tunick. The music was composed by Morris Mamorsky and conducted by Milton Catons. Cantor Robert Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. Featured as Huldah was Betty Gard, and as Josiah, Leon Janney. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. Free time to present The Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Oh unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The eternal light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light. This program comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today is Sylvia Berger's The Light and Darkness. Alexander Scorby is narrator, and featured as Annie is Joan Laser.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now the earth was unformed and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. Now, before we go into this story, before we start at the beginning and go wandering through the middle and bring you to the end, that is not an end, but a beginning, we want you to promise yourself that you're not going to cry. You're not going to cry. You're not going to put your face in your hands. Your throat isn't going to get bitter with tears. Because the light came of the darkness, sound of silence, and the void took form. In the state of Massachusetts, in the county Essex, lies the little hamlet of Tewksbury. Now, the year 1876, when Tewksbury came into this story, it was a sweet place to live, washed head and foot by two murmuring rivers, scented in the spring by blossoming fruit trees, comforted in the summer by ripening harvests. Gentle and quiet and peaceful it was. And many an evening, when the stars wheeled and circled in the limpid Tewksbury sky, Tewksbury prayers by the hundred went winging over the Tewksbury chimneys.
Help me, dear Lord, to learn patience, humility, and compassion for those who do not live in Tewksbury.
But there was one set of gentry in Tewksbury, too insignificant to mention since they were neither householders nor taxpayers nor hewers of wood, who sent no prayers of praise winging into their small portion of the sky. And these could be found in the Tewksbury State Hospital, more accurately known then as the Tewksbury Poorhouse.
I only wish my mother had never set eyes on my father.
Now, to this house of charity came two new guests, arriving on a winter afternoon in the big black hack, lovingly called the Black Maria. These were hurried at once to have their names recorded in the Tewksbury Book of Charities. The name of the first being
Annie Sullivan,
who was 10 years old and damaged, as a bruised fruit is damaged, or a doll when a child has pulled out an arm or a blue china eye. For over Annie's young eyes there lay a gray film, so that of a man's face she saw only the circle of his head, none of his features, his nose, or his eyes, but only the circle of his head and the blur of his body. Now the second guest that afternoon was
James Sullivan,
the girl's brother, and he too was damaged, the child bones in his body aching with an old man's weariness. and their mother was dead, and no one had been found who wanted them, not an uncle or an aunt or their own father. And so Annie Sullivan and her brother Jimmy were planted to grow in the Tewksbury poorhouse. And there they were like twisted vines in a dying garden.
Oh, potatoes, they grow small over there. Oh, potatoes, they grow small over there. Oh, potatoes grow so small, they are no good at all. Oh, they are no good at all over there.
Look at the picture, Annie. Look at the pretty picture. What's it show, Jimmy? A lady with a pink umbrella. She's laughing. She looks happy about something, all right.
Let me cut her out.
No. Last time you cut out a picture, you cut off the head.
I didn't see where the head was, Jimmy.
I'll cut her out.
We'll paste her up near the picture of the house with a lilac bush. That'll mean she lives there, see?
Are we living with her, Annie?
She's our aunt, and she gives us everything we want.
She likes us, doesn't she, Annie?
Is that you, Annie?
It's me, Granny Maggie.
Don't answer, Annie. She always wants to know if it's you.
She wants somebody to talk to. It's me and Jimmy, Granny Maggie. We're playing with a picture magazine.
Oh, Jimmy, is that you?
It's me.
Oh, it's nice to see a family together. You know why I'm here, Annie?
Here she goes again.
Your son got married, and his wife threw you out of the house.
She didn't like me. I coughed too much, and a good china plate fell out of my hand and broke. I just wasn't any use around. She didn't get married to take care of a helpless old woman. But I wasn't so helpless, Annie. She wouldn't let me touch her china, but I could have swept up and well, she didn't have to put me away with the loonies. I don't do no harm, Annie.
You don't do no harm.
Well, anyway, my son kissed me goodbye.
Come on, Annie. Let's go paste up the pictures before she starts again.
You know, I could have stayed in the attic upstairs. I wouldn't have been no trouble. It isn't as if I ate so much. You see how much I eat, Annie. I don't eat so much.
You don't eat so much.
No.
Come on, Annie. Let's play.
Oh, potatoes, they grow small over there.
I don't feel like playing anymore, Jimmy. You play alone. I don't feel like playing anymore.
What's the matter, Annie? Why don't you want to play anymore? What did you just see? What did you just hear that has blotted out the daydream of the house with the lilac bush?
I think I'll go talk to Clara.
Why do you want to talk to Clara, Annie? What are you looking for? What are you listening for? What do you want to be told, Annie? What can Clara tell you?
I hope he dies. I hope he dies. I hope you die. You hear me, you liar? You liar, wherever you are, I hope you die.
You shouldn't have gone to her today, Annie. This is one of Clara's bad days again. This is the day for her to remember wrongs forgotten, confidence betrayed, young days gone forever. This is her day to curse and mourn. Who will talk to you, Annie? Isn't there anyone at all who will talk to you?
Do you want to play Mumbly Peg, Annie?
Jimmy will talk to you, Annie. Jimmy loves you. Jimmy's past is your past. He remembers what you remember, the warm times, the good times, the times you had a mother.
Let's play remembering, Jimmy.
All right. I remember.
Let's remember about Mom.
All right. I remember Mama combed my hair.
I remember Mama drinking tea.
I remember Mama tied my shoes.
Bones, children. Bones, children.
I don't remember that.
Oh, Jimmy, you do. Don't you remember Mama saying bones, children?
I don't remember.
You do. You do, Jimmy. Mama was at the table. We were eating soup. Mama said, there's little bones in the soup, children. Little teensy bones. Bones, children. Bones, children. Oh, Jimmy, remember.
I remember.
The world's all warm and good again, isn't it, Annie? Jimmy remembers, and you're not alone. You're not like Clara, not like Granny Maggie. You have a brother. You have a friend. Morning and evening, you have a friend.
Good night, Jimmy.
The world's all good again. But someone should have warned you. Someone should have told you. Granny Maggie, your dying mother, Clara with the wounded heart, they should have warned you that the life of man is more fragile than the autumn leaf, shorter than the flickering match, quicker than the blaze of daylight between two dark tunnels.
He was took in the night, Annie.
What is she saying, Annie?
They took him out about 4 a.m. it was. I heard him call out something, Annie. I don't think it was your name, though.
Why do you stand there staring at her, Annie? Can't you understand what she's saying?
They took him into the little dead house, Annie. He's better off. Annie, I'm telling you, he's better off.
She's telling you, Annie, he's better off. Can't you understand? Can't you understand, Annie?
Jimmy!
He's better off. Better off.
Jimmy! Let me into him, mister. Please, let me into him.
You'll have to control yourself, Annie. There's nothing nobody can do anymore.
Jimmy!
You're disturbing the other patients, Annie.
Please, let me see him. Please, let me see him.
Can't go in to see him this way, Annie. You've got to get dressed proper first. I'll let you in to see him if you get dressed first.
Hurry, Annie. Hurry and get dressed. Granny Maggie will help you.
The other arm now, Annie.
Clara will lace your shoes.
Don't shake so, Annie.
They've dressed you in your calico dress. They've laced the shoes around your feet.
You didn't wash your face, Annie. Look at you. Go back and wash your face and hands. And comb your hair.
And comb your hair. For the last goodbye. For the final look at your brother, your friend.
If I let you in, Annie, will you promise you'll behave yourself?
I'll behave myself.
You'll be good?
I'll be good.
They've taken your hand. They've opened the door. They're seating you in a chair beside a bed. They're lifting the sheet from his little round face.
Jimmy.
Your arms are around him now. You're kissing the dear little face, the dearest in the world, the only one in all the world you ever loved.
Come away now, Annie. You can see him again after breakfast.
And you're torn away. You're led away, Annie. And all the world grows faint around you. Your feet stumble. Your hands are limp. And then a voice to tell you it's only a dream. It isn't true. It's only a dream.
You can go into the yard today, Annie, if you want to pick some lilacs for your brother's grave.
Now you're one of them, Annie. The lost, the unwanted, the cast aside. Now the poorhouse walls are a prison. Now night is a torment and day unending. Now you wander with the others from ward to ward. You shuffle with the others from room to room. You lurk around the windows. You stand lost before the doors. And you bang your fists upon the walls. You're trapped. You're trapped.
Come on, Joey. You said you'd read to me today. Come on, here's the book.
Tell me.
I already told you, Tilly. You promised you'd read to me after I told you, and I told you. Now, come on, page 375.
Tell me, Annie.
All right. But this is the last time, and then you read to me. Bother with you. Always breaking your promises and all. It wasn't that you're the only one who can read. I could see I'd learn to read myself. See if I wouldn't.
Tell me, Annie.
We'll escape in the middle of the night. We'll go in the kitchen and get us a knife.
A large butcher knife.
A large butcher knife. And we'll hide it in our clothing just in case. And then we'll wait. We'll wait until a dark night comes and the moon is covered over with a cloud and there's no stars in the sky.
And everybody will be fast asleep.
And everybody will be fast asleep. And we'll sneak up to the door. And the watchman will be sleeping.
Tim, the watchman will be sleeping.
And we'll steal the keys from off in his belt and unlock the door and get away. Now, we've planned our escape. Now you have to read to me. Page 375.
375. Page 1, page 2, page 3.
You're not going to count them one at a time, Tilly. Read the numbers, Tilly, please.
I think I'll go and pack my handkerchief.
There's lots of time to pack your handkerchief, Tilly. You said you'd read if I helped you escape. Now, come on.
I can't.
Why can't you?
Because I've got to go and pack my handkerchief.
You're trapped, Annie, and you want to get away. But not with a knife like crazy Tilly. Not through death like Granny Maggie. The trap is bigger than the poorhouse. But not too big for life.
I want to go to school.
School. Lately, all you've been talking about is school. What do you learn at school you don't know now?
I want to learn to read.
You can't learn to read, Annie. You can't see.
I want to go to school.
There's nothing willed on earth that is not willed in heaven. Our life is the Lord's and death.
I'm going to go to school. I'm going to learn to read.
The mother bird teaches her young to fly. The cow leads the calf to the grass in the pasture. But who teaches you, Annie? Who leads you?
There they are, Annie. The investigators. Now's your chance.
What are they investigating?
It don't matter. They're always investigating poorhouses. Don't make any difference. I'm telling you, if you want to get out of here. His name is Sanborn.
I can't see which is Mr. Sanborn.
It don't matter. Just go up to him and say, Mr. Sanborn?
Mr. Sanborn? Mr. Sanborn? Mr. Sanborn, I want to go to school.
What is the matter with you?
I can't see.
How long have you been here?
I don't know.
5 years, Annie. You've been here 5 years. And now you've broken free. You've made your escape. The Black Maria is waiting to take you away from here. Now say goodbye to those who remain.
Be a good girl. Mind your teachers, Annie.
I will, Claire.
Don't tell anyone you came from the poorhouse.
I won't, Maggie.
Never mind the poorhouse. Never mind the poorhouse. You keep your head up. You're as good as any of them.
All right, Claire.
Write me a letter when you learn how.
I will,
And I'll read it to you.
Bye, Annie. Bye. Send me some tobacco so you can get hold of it.
Who taught you, Annie Sullivan? Who guided you toward light out of darkness? Who sharpened your appetite for foods you never tasted? Who gave you the thirst that only learning could quench?
3 times 3?
9.
3 times 4?
12.
Now, do you think you could try it, Annie? Do you think you'd like to try the Bible and Braille yourself?
I would like to try. The voice of the Lord is upon the waters. The God of glory thundereth. Even the Lord upon many waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty.
What more is there, Annie? You can read and write, you can figure numbers and speak without stumbling. The flight over, the time come to rest. What more, Annie?
I want to see with my eyes.
The law of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes.
I want to see.
She has walked into the darkness. She has parted the curtains of fear. She has crossed the threshold of pain. She is journeying in uncertainty. She is looking for the light. Now the moment has come when the surgeons have done what man can do. The cutting with the knife, the lengthening, shortening, changing and repairing, the wrapping and unwrapping. Now the moment has come, and Annie Sullivan stands poised on the trembling edge of blindness. Open your eyes, Annie. What do you see? You see a room. You see a table in the corner of the room. You see a window. The sky through the open window. But everyone sees a room, a table, a window. Is there a window beyond the window that we don't see? What do you see, Annie, that makes you laugh with joy? Now let us celebrate the darkness and the light that came out of the darkness. Let us praise the day with the singing of our eyes. Let us revel in the green of the leaf, delight in the flight of the birds through the sky. Let us glory and rejoice and feast on our happiness and be content.
I want to teach the blind.
Now, how was man fashioned with restlessness, that in the midst of his feasting he should be hungry? How is his soul tormented with ambition, that the grapes of contentment sour on his tongue? How is he prodded with desire that dulls the relish of his senses? Have you not been locked in, Annie Sullivan? Have you not torn free? And should you not rest?
I will teach the blind.
Have you not wept and been afraid? Have you not been blind, and in your ignorance deaf and dumb? Has not the time come to rejoice and to rest, to relish the sight of the earth and the sky and rejoice?
The deaf and the dumb and the blind. I will bring them sound and speech, and I will make them see. This I will do.
And Annie Sullivan went to where a child was suffering. And this child was deaf, and she was dumb, and she was blind. And this child suffered with the anguish of something buried alive. She wept and she raged, and she had no words to say what hurt her. And she could not hear the comfort of others, of her father or her mother. And she had no eyes to see their signs. And she was alone. And she raged like something buried alive. She mourned and she raged. And Annie Sullivan came to where the child suffered. She sought out the child in the darkness, and with her hands upon her, she led her out into the light. With her hands upon the child's, she spelled speech to her. And she taught her that there were words. And she used the words to teach her that there were sounds and sights. And to the child, Annie Sullivan brought the world she had found for herself. And then Annie Sullivan rested and rejoiced. For is not the child a woman now? And does she not praise the day with the singing of her eyes, and delight in the green of the leaf? Was not her raging stilled with words? Did not sounds enter the grave of her deafness? Were not sights brought to her who could not see? Did not Annie Sullivan create a world for her who had no world?
We take pleasure in presenting Mr. Jacob Davis, prominent civic and Jewish community leader and member of the Board of Overseers of the Jewish Theological Seminary, speaking from Pittsburgh. Mr. Davis.
You have just heard the story of Anne Sullivan. Who was Anne Sullivan? Who also was the 7-year-old child, deaf, dumb, and blind, who suffered with the anguish of something buried alive? The child was Helen Keller, and Anne Sullivan was her teacher. Why should we be interested in Anne Sullivan, an almost blind orphan from the poorhouse in Tewksbury? In our time, we have seen 80,000 human beings killed in the flash of one uranium bomb. Can we still be concerned about the life of a single bruised and rejected child? It is not Anne's spindly legs, her half-blind eyes that interest us. She commands our attention because she willed to see and labored to learn. Then, marvelously, she struggled to teach Helen, a girl more desperately hurt, more woebegone even than she. Hers might be the story of any individual who has repudiated handicaps. With few changes, hers might be the story of Abraham Lincoln, born in a shack in the distant hills, who was stopped by no obstacles, and who rose to be the most beloved and perhaps the greatest of all Americans. Hers might be the story of a small people in Palestine. Children murdered, sisters outraged, parents exterminated by the unspeakable Nazis, they nevertheless willed to be free men and to extend the blessing of freedom to their rejected and homeless brothers. Hers, in short, is the story of the greatness of the human soul. We, who are blessed with sound limbs and clear eyes, who were not transported in a black Maria, nor reared in the poorhouse at Tewksbury, might we not remember Anne, her head unbowed, her spirit undismayed, and with her recite the psalmist's praise, I shall not die, but live to declare the glory of the Lord.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. If you would like a free copy of today's script, please send your name and address with 10 cents to cover the cost of postage and handling to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. Our Eternal Light drama today, The Light and Darkness, was written by Sylvia Berger. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Katims. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. Joan Laser was featured as Annie, and the narrator was Alexander Scroby. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. Free time to present The Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olives, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The eternal life. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Life, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's story, Sentence of Life, was written by Morton Wishengrad. Featured as the man is Charles Penman, and the narrator is Norman Rose.
Once upon a time, there lived a man who did not know he was mortal. He was not ignorant. He knew that men were born and that they die. He had known it even as a child when he sat at Bible lessons and heard other children recite,
For we must needs die, and there is water spilt on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again.
He was never troubled by the words, nor was he troubled when he became a man, and he heard similar words from the pulpit.
The days of our years are 70, yet it is speedily gone, and we fly away.
He agreed with the words, insofar as they applied to others. Naturally, they did not apply to him. He was not mortal, nor was life brief. It was interminable.
A timepiece is a very foolish invention. It merely reminds people that there are 60 seconds in each minute, 60 minutes in each hour, 24 hours in each day. It's too much.
This man did not lack the common benefits of mortality. His mother died.
Every dark cloud has a silver lining. I am happy to inform you that your dear mother has left you a legacy that comes to more than 10,000 a year.
When his father died, the family lawyer didn't have to bother to read the will.
Yes, Father told me that everything would go to me. Excuse me. Just leave the bonds in the top drawer.
He built a new wing and added conservatories to his house. He married a pretty girl who believed every word he uttered. He joined an expensive golf club and took his handicap seriously. He begot 2 daughters and 1 son, and cultivated begonias and the county families. And his bank manager respected his habit of planning for tomorrow instead of today. He found it something of a trial to buy simple things like clothes.
That's a fine piece of leather. Just take it in your hand, sir. No, I'd like something better. Why, then this is what you want. The very latest fashion. I'm not interested in the fashion. Fashions change. I see. Oh, you want something that will last. I have just the thing for you. Just look at that shoe. There isn't a shoe to touch it. Is this the best you have? The very best. My dear sir, that shoe is good for 30 years. Haven't you anything more durable?
The shopkeepers found him exasperating, but they contained themselves, for he was an important man and a successful one. As he grew older, he became more successful. His business thrived, his garden flourished, his possessions increased. But none of this made him happy. He was distressed by the manners of his children.
Out of my way, Dad. Can't you see I'm in a hurry?
Despite their expensive education, his daughters did not show him the deference that he considered suitable. He was distressed by politicians who did not carry out the policies he thought desirable, by servants whose efficiency seemed to decrease as their wages grew higher.
The soup is cold.
I'll tell the cook, sir.
You might try serving it a bit faster. I pay you good wages.
I do the best I can, sir.
Then perhaps that's not good enough. Take this back. I want a bowl of hot soup.
Yes, sir.
Well, don't stand there. Take it away.
Very good, sir.
But his lunch was hopelessly spoiled.
I detest soup that's cold and soup that's tepid. Soup should be served hot or not at all.
He was in bad humor, a condition which was not improved by the equally bad humor of his wife.
I'm sick and tired of having every meal degenerate into a scene between you and one of the servants.
How interesting.
And I'm tired of your sarcasm. It's very feeble.
Then why not relieve me of the necessity for sarcasm by running your household as it should be run?
What do you mean by that?
I mean that the servants are slipshod, the cook is an imposter, and you're incompetent.
How dare you?
Moreover, you haven't the vaguest idea of how to bring up children or take care of a husband.
How dare you?
That's twice. I'm still not impressed. Perhaps things would be better if you spent less time in front of your mirror and more time in front of...
You've been absolutely insufferable.
You're shouting.
God pity me, but I loved you once. If it weren't for my loyalty to the children, I swear I wouldn't abide this house for a minute.
Thank you, my dear. But why tell the servant?
Go away. Go back to your office. Why in heaven's name do you come here for lunch? It's bad enough to have you for the other meals. Please have the human decency to go to your office and let us alone.
But at the office, the poor clerks wished he were back at home.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, sir?
I should like to see you.
I'm coming, sir. What is it?
Don't you know?
No, sir.
Look at this balance sheet.
It seems perfectly all right to me, sir.
It's all wrong. Where's the item for depreciation?
I've put it right here, sir, under this item marked obsolescence.
And why did you do that?
I don't know, sir. Maybe it's because obsolescence is such a nice round word and depreciation seems rather down at the heels.
Mr. Miller, you are a baboon.
Yes, sir. Anything else, sir?
Yes. Tell the cretin who calls himself your assistant that he's discharged.
He wasn't deliberately late, sir. He was unavoidably detained.
Mr. Miller, if you have to make these excuses, make them elsewhere. Why in the name of everything wretched you incompetent bunglers insist on working for me?
Don't you know, sir?
No, tell me.
It's only because we need the money.
These little scenes were not pleasant to him. After they occurred, he was generally filled with a sense of remorse, and he tried to make atonement in small and devious ways.
What a pretty bunch of flowers.
I cut them myself.
Oh? Thank you.
When he handed out an especially large bonus to his employees, there were no shouts of joy. He heard them say to one another,
"He's still getting a bargain for what we have to take."
And the worst of it all was that he knew it was true and found himself incapable of doing anything about it. Moreover, he found himself increasingly subject to a certain digestive uneasiness.
I beg your pardon.
If I were you, I wouldn't call attention to myself.
But can't I even get a civil word in my own house?
Oh, ironic.
What's ironic about a man that...
Why don't you try exercising in the morning? Try knee bending 150 times.
I suppose you think that's funny.
He didn't think so, but he tried knee bending. It didn't work. His bank manager had another suggestion.
Nothing better for the digestive apparatus than 9 holes of golf before breakfast.
He tried 9 holes. He tried 18 holes. His chauffeur advised a patent medicine. His barber recommended hot towels. But each thing he tried only aggravated his discomfort. The trouble was that he was not happy, and he was not interested. Time seemed to him very long and very tedious. Though he made money and bought anything which suited his fancy, he couldn't buy satisfaction. One day he forgot himself to such an extent that he said to the bank manager,
I don't know what the world is coming to. Sometimes I think I'd be better off dead.
As he said it, he realized that he was thinking of something that was impossible. However, the bank manager nodded his head sagely.
Why don't you see a doctor?
Absurd. I've no use for doctors. Never did.
Well, you know the joke everyone tells. It all depends on the liver.
I hate puns.
Naturally you would. I mean, most intelligent people do. But seriously, sir, why don't you pay a little visit to your family doctor?
It was really a rather stupid suggestion. A man like himself visiting a doctor. Absurd. Still, the family doctor was only a short distance away.
Say ah.
Ah.
Breathe through your mouth. More rapidly. Don't tire yourself unnecessarily. You may stop.
Well, doctor?
I don't know. I'd like you to see a specialist.
There. Ah. Breathe through your mouth. More rapidly, if you please. You may stop. You may stop. Well, doctor? My dear sir, tell me. I'm not certain. I want you to see a radiologist. Raise your hands. Like this? Little more, sir. How's this? That's better. Now, place your right hand behind your neck. This way? Mm-hmm. Good. Hold it, sir. Yeah. Hold it. Well, I'm certainly going to be anxious to hear your report. Oh, my report won't be conclusive, sir. Not by a long shot. I want you to go to see a biochemist. This won't hurt. Ow! It's only a little blood.
The biochemist sent him to an ophthalmologist, who sent him to an allergist, who sent him to a neurologist, who sent him to a surgeon. The surgeon sent his report back to the family doctor.
Sir, there's no use blinking the truth.
What did you say, doctor?
You are the head of a family. You have responsibility.
What in the world are you driveling about?
My dear sir, I think you ought to know that all the reports are on my desk.
What about them?
We consider you to be in a very grave condition.
Nonsense. It's a mild digestive upset.
I wish it were true.
You mean you want to cut me up? I refuse to consider the idea.
I'm afraid that an operation would hardly be advisable under the circumstances.
Under what circumstances?
Your circumstances, sir. An operation at the very best might prolong life for a few weeks, but...
Prolong life? Do you mean that I'm going to die?
Sir, I'm only a doctor. These things are not in our hands.
Well, they well ought to be. What do you think I'm paying you for?
This is no time for such language. Not for you, old man.
Don't you dare call me old man. You're really serious, aren't you?
Don't take it badly. Death is a condition of life.
Fiddlesticks. Send your bill to my office. I'm bored. Goodbye.
He had lied to the doctor. He wasn't bored. He was very far from being bored.
I'm going to die.
It was such an incredible thought.
I'm going to die.
He looked down at his own familiar body and tried to imagine it enclosed in a coffin. He looked at the pleasant suburban road on which his house was situated, at the geraniums and lobelia bordering the garden beds, at the chestnut trees which had blossomed before his father's birth, at the cars passing, the boys on bicycles, and at the freshness and the gaiety of the summer day. A bird sat on a fence. He tried to imagine the bird sitting there, still sitting, when he was no longer there to see it.
I'm going to die.
He thought of his wife, and tried to imagine her weeping over his grave. He tried to imagine his son running through the house in his newfound freedom. He tried to imagine Miller at the office.
He'll probably put his feet on the desk.
A neighbor passed.
Nice day, isn't it?
I wonder what you would say if you knew you were greeting a man under a sentence of death.
The drama of the situation exhilarated him.
I'm a doomed man.
He had been condemned.
By 7 doctors.
Today, tomorrow, the final dissolution might begin. He felt as though every other man must live forever. He alone was destined for imminent death. He opened his gate. And entered his garden. He saw the new apple trees impaled and spread against the sheltering wall.
I'm never going to see them blossom. No.
And into his mind, it flashed that the sight of apple blossoms was one of the most exquisite of human pleasures. His feet halted again.
I shall never see another spring.
It was a strange thought. He'd always taken it for granted that daffodils in his orchard, and eggs in the thrush's nest, and the showers scattering through the silver birches were little amenities provided by nature for his sole comfort.
And now they'll continue, even when I'm not here to enjoy them.
His daughters were slim and graceful in their gay summer dresses. They were his girls, his children. He had made them, educated them, clothed them. He had molded them to his taste. But he saw now that they had independent existences, which would continue long after he had ceased to fret over their manners, or to take pleasure in their youthful grace. He entered the cool quietness of his house.
You're home early.
Yes. You've put roses in the silver bowl.
You've noticed?
Why do you say that? Have you always put roses in the silver bowl?
For years.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. I'm rather glad. I'm pleased.
It was pleasant to him that his wife was pleased. He touched his fingers to the tablecloth.
A damask cloth.
He let his hand rest on a chair.
Solid mahogany.
He looked around. His eyes were new. His possessions were solid, invulnerable, constructed for endurance. Regarding them, he became conscious of his fragile body, constructed for decay. To everyone else in the house, the clock said, tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. But to him it said, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Tick-tock, 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 squandering its rare treasure of time, flinging to left and right the day, the minutes, the moments. Life was brief, 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 brief.
I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
And he knew that life was sweet.
The soup is on. You like it hot?
Yes, of course.
And so he went to the head of the table and sat down. He tasted the soup.
Oh, it's good. Thank you, sir. I'll tell cook. Do that, will you? I'll be grateful.
Yes, sir. Is there anything else you would like, sir?
I've been cruel to you. I would like your forgiveness.
No, sir. Not cruel.
I behaved monstrously to you.
They all regarded him with wonder. The servant was only able to nod his head, and he returned to the kitchen more rapidly than was necessary. The man smiled at his family.
The wine is good. Hold out your glasses. Girls, you look very handsome this evening. Almost as handsome as your mother.
That's kind of you, my dear.
It's good to be able to say it, and even better to mean it.
You make me blush.
He smiled at her and at them. His daughters were fair. His son was stalwart. His wife was graceful and dignified and a true lady.
I have thought of something. All tedious things become tolerable if we realize we may never have to suffer them again. And all things become truly precious when we're about to lose them.
They agreed with him, without understanding what he meant. Each morning of each day, after that day, when he awoke, he said,
Perhaps this is my last awakening.
He regarded his children more closely, and he saw in them new and interesting qualities of character. When he went to his business, he exerted all his powers.
Sir, I just wanted to say that everyone in the office is quite excited about the Mercer project. You've handled it brilliantly, sir.
It's good of you to say so, Miller.
Wonderful, sir. The men are stimulated. It's a challenge.
Miller, you make me proud.
Do I, sir?
Yes.
That's good, sir.
His bank manager studied him for a few moments. And then he said,
You know something, sir? You look younger.
You're joking.
No, you look younger. You've got bound.
The man laughed. He no longer complained that life was not worth living. He was in love with life, and he counted every hour a miracle snatched from the oblivion of death. He returned to his doctor for a routine examination on the progress of his disease.
Hold still a moment longer.
You're disturbed, Doctor. What is it?
I'm not disturbed. Not at all, sir. I'm marveling.
What do you mean?
With the symptoms we found in you, 9 men out of 10 would now be on their deathbed. Sir, I believe you're going to prove an exception. Don't you understand? I'm telling you that you've got a chance to live to a ripe old age.
I may live?
As long as I or anyone.
Thank you, Doctor.
Of course. We all have to die someday.
Yes. For we must needs die, and are as waters spilt on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again.
He went out into the streets of the city. He knew now that though the sentence had been postponed, it had not been repealed. He was alive, but someday he must die. The sun still shone. His garden still was sweet. His daughters still were beautiful. His work still lured him by its promise of conflict and of triumph. But now he knew that existence has meaning, because existence has an end. He was glad to live because he understood now that all men must die. His heart and brain were full of this crowning mercy. Life, its rarity and its value. And thus dreaming, he never noticed the vehicle, which, swinging rapidly around the corner, killed him instantly. They grieved for him. And perhaps of all who grieved, the most sorrowful was the doctor.
Adam, I can't tell you how I feel. I blame myself.
No, Doctor. There's no one to blame.
No, I blame myself. Because our diagnosis was wrong. By mistake, I passed a sentence of death upon him. A sentence of death which cast a shadow over all his final days.
The kind doctor was wrong. He did not know that it was the sentence of life which he had spoken.
A copy of today's script, please send your name and address with 10 cents to cover the cost of postage and handling to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. Our Eternal Light drama today, Sentence of Life, was written by Morton Wishengrad and was adapted from the story of the same name by Winifred Holty. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catons. Cantor Robert Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. Featured as the man was Charles Penman, and Norman Rose was the narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. Free Time to present The Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This program came to you from Radio City, New York. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's story, The Man Who Touched the Stars, was written by Sigmund Miller. Leon Janney is featured as Solomon. The narrator is Bernard Lenrow.
In old Spain of the 11th century, there lived one of the greatest poets of Israel. His name was Solomon ibn Gabirol. He was a frail, lonely, and troubled youth, but inside him truth burned with an incandescent flame, so fiercely that no one could come too close to him. But Solomon could touch the stars at will, even when he was 14.
Ah, my friend Simeon. Shalom.
Shalom, Judah.
Pray, sit down.
Thank you.
I imagine you wish to talk to me about my son Solomon.
Your son and my student.
Is it a compliment or a complaint?
Well, in a way, it's a complaint. Not a bad one, but a complaint.
He's not neglecting his studies, is he?
Oh, no. He'll be as great a scholar as yourself, Judah. But you know, one who glories in himself lowers his own position.
You will have to speak more to the point, Simeon. What did Solomon do?
Well, he wrote a poem. A very good poem, I admit.
You will have to admit a great deal more to make me understand what your complaint is about.
I have the poem here. Let me read it to you.
Please do.
I open the gates of knowledge and understanding. I gather stray phrases into strings of thought, and from scattered words I collect pearls of wisdom. I penetrate into places closed even to men of understanding, and sing songs that make the soul rejoice and deliver the heart from sorrow. I am the master singer, and song is my slave, though I be but 14. I have the wisdom of a man of 40. That is the poem.
I see. You feel that perhaps it boasts too much.
Well, a boy of 14 should develop a bit of modesty.
A boy of 14 or a man of 40, both.
And there's one more thing. The man of 40 in the poem refers to me. You see, I once told him that he didn't have the wisdom of a man of 40 like myself.
Well, Simeon, I'll talk to Solomon about this.
You understand, I don't have any animosity towards the boy. Not at all. After all, it is written in the Talmud that the only ones who do not envy a brilliant student are his teachers and his father.
I'm sure you don't envy him. Oh, Simeon.
Yes?
It's not bad poetry for a lad of 14.
Excellent. Very excellent. He might even become a well-known poet someday.
The same evening, Judah ibn Gabirol took the matter up with his son Solomon. When he came upon Solomon in his room, the boy was completing a poem.
Father, I didn't know you were here.
I didn't want to interrupt you. Genius must come before respect for the elders. What are you writing, Solomon?
I've written a poem.
Would you like to hear it?
I would, very much.
It's a little rough, but, well. For since my youth, in wisdom's course I labor, to shining wisdom, to her must I ascend. She is my sister, my childhood chum, my neighbor. And of all men, she must choose me, her friend. There's an extra beat in the third line. I'll have to get rid of a syllable. How do you like it, Father?
It's a good poem. Unusual poem. You say something about since my youth. I did not know that your youth was gone.
I'm 14. I'm a man. I think like a man.
Yes, I know. In one of your poems, you said you have as much wisdom as a man of 40. How much wisdom is a man of 40 supposed to have?
An older man has had more time to gather wisdom than a younger man.
Man is only wise during the time he searches for knowledge. If he imagines that he has completely attained it, he is not wise at all. But I would like to talk to you about Simeon, your teacher. He seems disturbed at your lack of modesty.
Modesty is only self-shame. I am ashamed of nothing, Father. I am proud of what I am, what I write and do. I think my teacher Simeon is vexed with me because he writes poor poetry. He is a man without talent as a teacher or writer.
I don't know whether that is true or not. Nevertheless, you must be circumspect, and you must not say such things.
But they are true.
Even so, you must not antagonize people.
My own teacher Simeon has taught me that one should not fear the truth. I do not fear it. Why should he?
Truth is like fire. It warms some people and burns others. You must be careful not to burn anyone.
I believe in truth. If it will make enemies, then let it do so. I am not afraid of truth in people or kings.
Well, my son, perhaps you will have to learn caution and prudence the hard way.
But this was the mold of Solomon ibn Gabirol. He pursued truth, and he said what was in his heart. This precocious boy grew into a sensitive and delicate young man. When he was 20, he met a beautiful young girl called Naomi. She had jet black hair and flashing brown eyes, and Solomon loved her from the very first moment.
You are lovely tonight. Lovelier than a spring eventide.
Yes, Solomon, tell me more.
When I dream of you, Naomi, I am wide awake. And when I'm wide awake, I dream of you. When I close my eyes, I see your bewitching brown eyes. Wherever I am, wherever I go, you stand always before me.
You really do love me, Solomon.
As I love my own soul. Because of you, sweet Naomi, I see beauty in everything I see. Tell me that you love me too, Naomi.
I do, Solomon, I do.
To what degree do you love me?
With all my heart.
Then we are pledged to each other.
We are pledged.
I have written a poem, Naomi.
For me, Solomon?
Not to you exactly, but you have inspired me.
Oh.
You have made me, through love for you, appreciate God.
Do you have the poem with you? May I see it?
I carry the poem with me wherever I go. Listen to it, Naomi. Thou art one, the first of every number, and the foundation of every structure. Thou exists, but the how has no sway over thee, nor the wherefore and whence. Thou livest, but not through breath and soul, for thou art soul of the soul. Thou art wise, the fountainhead of all wisdom. Thou drawest up films of being from nothingness. Thou hast formed man from a pinch of clay and breathed into him a soul, and imparted to him a spirit of wisdom, whereby man is divided from the beasts, that he may ascend to a higher sphere. Thou hast warmed him with the gift of love.
That is beautiful, Solomon.
It is you who helped me write it. It is you, Naomi, who makes of me the best of me.
But as time went on, Naomi got to know another young man, Noah, and she compared the two. Noah came of a rich family. He was easy to get along with and never said things that hurt her deeply as Solomon did. Noah was healthy, sturdy, and full of humor. True, Noah did not love her as passionately as Solomon, but he loved her well enough.
Let us walk to the river's edge, Naomi. I would like to see the moonbeams on the river.
I'd rather go to the garden square of roses.
Let it be the square, then.
If you really prefer to walk to the river, Solomon...
No, we'll go to the square of roses.
But you just said you wanted to go to the river.
You changed my mind.
We're beginning to quarrel again.
Not we, but you. You are deliberately seeking a quarrel.
You're being very rude, Solomon.
You are in love with Noah, that muddle-headed...
He is not muddle-headed.
His father has sent him to the best school in Malaga and Saragossa. Yet he can barely write an intelligible letter.
You hardly know him, Solomon. You mustn't talk about anyone you know so little about.
Then let us talk about you. I know you very well. You have decided to marry Noah, but you have not the courage to tell me.
I haven't made any decisions.
Spare yourself the embarrassment of telling me something you know I don't believe. Perhaps you love me more, Naomi, but Noah will make the better husband, the better father. Noah will never tell you the truth if it hurts you. I will. Noah will lie to you whenever necessary. I never. If you are shallow, I will say that you are shallow. And if you are beautiful, I will say you are beautiful.
Well, I still want to think...
Naomi, look at me.
Yes?
Now tell me. Only words from your heart can reach my heart. Tell me.
Yes. I think I will marry Noah.
I'm glad you told me so directly. And now there will be no more argument between you and me. And from now on, we will go our separate ways. You did not understand me at all. For when I spoke to you of love, I also spoke with truth. And when I spoke the truth to you, I also spoke with love. Farewell, beautiful Naomi. And farewell to a strange and beautiful dream I had of you.
Solomon! Solomon, wait!
That night he walked to the river's edge alone, and there sat down and watched the moonbeams gleam on the dark waters. And in his bitterness, a poem welled up in him like the tears that welled up in his eyes.
Lord, what is man? A carcass fouled and trodden, a noxious creature brimming with deceit, a fading flower that shrivels with the heat. Lord, what is man? A lonely creature driven. Like fallen leaves, he falls in a heap. His stroke comes sudden, and he falls on sleep.
Then Solomon's beloved father died, and he was left without a family. And now for the first time in his life, Solomon ibn Gabiro lived alone, and he did not thrive. In this evil, lonely moment of his life, he chanced to cross the path of one Yekutiel, a powerful political figure in Saragossa.
So you are Solomon ibn Gabiro.
That's my name, Yekutiel.
You're the brilliant young poet who has insulted all the rich and second-rate minds of our fair city.
Not insulted, but told them the truth.
You should know the truth is the greatest insult to mankind.
I don't know that. Truth is a never-ending ladder that reaches to the stars. If you climb high enough on this ladder, you can touch the stars.
Most of the people in Saragossa don't even know there are stars in the sky. Anyway, Solomon, you've made almost as many bitter enemies here in our city as I have. You need to protect yourself.
I am not afraid of them.
I know that, but still you need protection. Now, how would you like to come and live with me?
With you?
I have a fine home, the largest library in Saragossa, and plenty of money, which I do not plan to take with me after I die. You will be safe at my home, for I have a constant armed guard, and you can write at leisure about anything you please, even evil things about me if you so fancy.
You will learn to dislike me in a short time.
Perhaps not. We may quarrel, but we certainly won't find each other dull. I will be your patron, and you will repay me with great poetry. Is it a pact?
Yes, Yekutiel.
I say that's absurd. People are not born fools.
make themselves so after they are born.
You're wrong, Yekutiel. A fool inherits his foolishness from his ancestors.
Nonsense. The characteristics of a fool are of such a nature that they can only develop after he is born.
If you look at a fool, you find that he is much like his father or grandfather. You will find that he aspires to a position for which he is not fitted. He cannot distinguish friend from foe.
That's neither here nor there, Solomon.
Another characteristic of a fool is that he answers before he hears.
Are you calling me a fool?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Please stop this bickering. You are both fools to argue over such nonsense.
My good wife, this is a matter between men. Now, you called me a fool, Solomon, and you said I was so only in this instance.
Please, let us go into dinner.
Well, if I was a fool in only this instance, I was not a fool in another instance, or when I was born. Then I did not inherit my foolishness. I acquired it. You defeat your own argument, Solomon.
That was merely a figure of speech. You are an arrogant man, Yekutiel, a man who must always have his own way.
Nevertheless, I'm not a fool in this instance or any other. And you, Solomon, are a better poet than a logician.
And you, Yekutiel, are a politician, devious in thought and word.
Please, the dinner is getting cold.
Nevertheless, these two men loved each other. Although they argued and squabbled, they respected each other and every day became closer friends. Solomon found peace and happiness here until one day.
Solomon.
What is it, Deborah?
Yekutiel.
What's the matter? Tell me.
Slain. They murdered my poor husband.
Not since the death of his beloved father had Solomon known such grief. Perhaps this loss was even greater, for Solomon had lost his only friend in a world that had become friendless to him. And now Solomon could no longer remain in Saragossa. He had brought about the hatred of too many people in high positions by his outspoken and devastating opinions. Without the protection of Yekutiel, his life was in great danger. He fled in the night and came to the city where Samuel Hanogid, the famous poet, was Grand Vizier, the city of Granada.
Who wrote this poem, Joseph?
Some unknown young writer, my Lord Samuel.
What's his name?
Solomon Ibn Gabiru.
Who is he, Joseph?
I don't know, my lord.
How then did this poem reach me?
It is my belief he sent it here to attract your attention, knowing that you are a great poet.
Read the poem to me again.
Yes, my lord. O inhabitants of homes of clay, why lift ye such a swelling eye? Ye are but beasts that die, what do you boast of more than they? Behold, no jot with thee will stay of all the glory now so great. Strangers shall seize thy loved estate, and empty thou shalt go away.
He is a great poet. I should like to meet him.
I know where he can be found, my lord.
Well, then, see if you can have him visit me. He sounds rebellious, sensitive, and very talented. I'm curious to see what he looks like.
Most eminent grace, my Lord Samuel Hanogid, Grand Vizier of Granada, may I present Solomon Ibn Gabiru, the poet.
Step forward, Solomon.
I am honored, my lord.
Leave us alone, Joseph. I would like to talk to him alone.
Yes,
my lord. I have read your poem. Extraordinarily good.
Which poem was that, my lord?
The one in which you threatened me that eventually I will die, and that strangers shall seize thy loved estate, and empty thou shalt go away.
You are mistaken, my lord. I never threatened you. The poem wasn't directed at you or anyone in particular. It was directed at any vain man of power. But if you consider yourself also vain, then indeed the poem is directed at you, my lord.
You're a spirited poet, anyway. You talk your mind, whether it be the Grand Vizier or the Emir. How old are you, Solomon?
I am 22.
22? Well, one should have learned discretion before then.
I am a poet, my lord. One cannot be discreet and a poet at the same time. A poet must deal with truth and live with truth.
Nevertheless, to live in this world, you must walk carefully, say things carefully, and hand out truth most carefully. In a world full of sensitive kings and viziers and noblemen and men of power, you must be careful what you say. The stumbling of a foot is healed in a short time, but the stumbling of a tongue may lose a man his head.
I am not frightened, my lord.
Oh, you are not frightened. But you must admit it's easier to retract what you did not say than what you did say.
I have no need to make retractions. Understand me, my lord. I am not being vain about my adoration of truth. This is the way I am. This is the way a poet should be. For a poet lifts men higher, and a poet's strength to lift is through the power of truth. A poet is a judge of men, all men, including kings and viziers. To be a good poet is perhaps a dangerous profession. Nevertheless, such a man am I.
Well, Solomon, I find you brave and stimulating, and I have a feeling that you are a truly great poet. You have made a friend of the vizier.
The friendship of the Grand Vizier or the king, though it confer dignity and honor, is like a high mountain upon which there are all varieties of beautiful fruit, but also all species of savage beasts. The ascent is laborious, and to remain upon it still worse. Rather would I be the friend of Samuel Hanagid the poet than Samuel Hanagid the Grand Vizier.
Well, I say to you, from Samuel the poet to Solomon the poet, we are well met. We are now brothers and companions.
We are brothers and companions.
These two great poets became great friends. Solomon became the ward of Samuel Hanagid, the Grand Vizier, who supported and encouraged and protected him as if he were truly his own brother. And Solomon needed protection, for the court of the Grand Vizier throbbed with gossip, innuendos, evasions, subterfuges, and cunning speech, and truth was nowhere to be found. But of all the scheming people at the court, none was closer to the Grand Vizier than Joseph. He watched with envy the rapidly growing friendship between the Vizier and Solomon ibn Gabiro, and contrived to become an intimate companion of Solomon's. He beguiled and encouraged him to be his confidant, and Solomon trusted him.
Ha ha! You should have seen the emir. His face was red with laughter, and the visiting caliph was pale with embarrassment. But my Lord Samuel saved the day. He deliberately turned over a bottle of wine on his new tunic, so that all the attention was drawn to him.
Samuel is a most skillful diplomat.
He is that. And he writes fairly good poetry, doesn't he?
It is much better than fair.
Oh, yes, much better than fair. But didn't you once say it lacked something?
If anything, it lacks warmth. But it's still great poetry.
The emir doesn't seem to care for the vizier's poetry.
The emir cares for nothing except food and horses. He keeps getting fatter with each passing month. He has doubled the household tax and the grape tax so that he can gorge his family and buy more horses. Soon there will be no horse in all Spain capable of standing up under his weight. If he spent some of his time in reading the vizier's poetry instead of eating, perhaps affairs in Granada might be better.
The glorious emir is not really that fat, is he?
The emir, indeed, has covered himself with glory. He will go down in memory of Spain as the man who taxed his state into poverty, as the plumpest, softest emir in all history.
And Joseph carefully let it be known throughout the court what Solomon thought of Samuel's poetry and his opinion of the reigning emir. And when the story was in full blaze at the court, he also went and told Samuel Hanagid.
Sit down, Solomon.
Your messenger said it was urgent. Is there anything wrong, Samuel?
Don't you like it here at my court?
I like it very well, Samuel.
I think not. I think you're anxious to leave.
Whoever informed you of this lies.
Is it also a lie that you think my poetry is chilly, Or that the emir will go down in history as the man who taxed his state into poverty, that he is the softest, plumpest emir of them all? Are these lies?
No. They are not lies. Joseph has goaded me into saying these things so that he could betray me. Even though I be outspoken, I honor you more than anyone in the court.
I know that, Solomon, and I forgive you. But everyone in court knows what you said about the emir and myself. You will have to make a public retraction.
Public retraction? Why, I can't. I can't debase myself.
There is no other way.
Well, it is a bitter thing to do, but I will.
You're being very wise.
Yes, my lord.
I'm still Samuel to you. You need never call me my lord. Do you really think my poetry is chilly?
Yes. But I still think you are one of the greatest poets of our time. And I will make the necessary retraction before the court.
Behold, devoted companions of the Grand Vizier, blessed be his name, I summon up one Solomon ibn Gabirol, a poet who would say to you a matter of importance.
There always comes in each man's life a day of reckoning, when he is faced with carrying out the things he has always believed in. I came here to apologize and deny the truth. My heart and my soul refuse to allow me to do this. I said that the emir is a tyrant, a man who has overtaxed his people in order to fill his stables with more horses and his larder with more food. This no honest man can deny. And if I said that the emir is the fattest ruler in history, you need only look at him to see that I do not exaggerate. An apology from me will not make the emir slender. The truth can only do good, and only to good people. But those who oppose the truth, they will find that it is mighty and will forever prevail.
Solomon ibn Gabirol died before he was 30, with the flame of truth still burning in him, and no one would come close to this flame. And when he died, his only friend was God.
If you would like a copy of today's script, please send your name and address with 10 cents, cover the cost of postage and handling, to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. Our Eternal Light drama today, The Man Who Touched the Stars, was written by Sigmund Miller. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catons. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. Featured as Solomon ibn Gabirol was Leon Janney. The narrator was Bernard Lenrow. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Tapp. Free time to present The Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light. This program comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's story, In Henry's Backyard, was written by Peter Lyon. John Larkin is the narrator, and featured in the role of Henry is Ralph Bell.
There is a little book, just 32 pages long, only 5 years old, which has won recognition as one of the most important books of our time. It is The Races of Mankind by two anthropologists, Dr. Jean Weltfish and the late Ruth Benedict. And the greatness of this little book is in its theme. The races of mankind are what the Bible says they are. Created in the image of God, brothers. In their bodies is the record of their brotherhood. Songs, ballads, other books, movies have been based on this little book. Today we have prepared a radio play written for the Thanksgiving season, and it is likewise based on the races of mankind. It's a fable that we want to tell, and the hero of this fable, if you could call him a hero, is a fellow called Henry White, a very typical type fellow.
I'm not so typical.
Of course, nobody likes to think he's typical. But we'll let you judge for yourself if maybe there isn't a little bit of you, and of you, and of me in Henry White. Henry works for a living in an office.
The Prudential Guaranteed Mutual Providential Building and Loan Savings Association.
A reputable firm, I understand, and Henry works very hard there, trying, like us all, to make enough money so that he can keep a roof over his head. Henry's boss, the man in charge of Henry's department, is a man named Joe Burke.
That's me.
We'll hear more from Joe Burke in a few minutes. Henry, typically enough, is married. Wife, name of Mabel.
I'm Mabel.
And I would like to prove that Henry is really typical by reporting that he has 3.6 children, but he doesn't. He has only one child, a boy named Junior. Well, when Henry gets home from work in the evening, the first thing he does is take off his shoes. And the second thing he does is...
Hey, Mabel, what'd you do with my slippers?
And then, of course, after dinner, Henry turns on the radio. His favorite programs are quiz shows, but, as he says...
Boy, are they dumb. Now, if I ever got on one of those shows, I'd come home rich.
Yes, Henry dreams of being rich, which is getting close to being typical, because he isn't rich, which is most certainly typical. Well, Henry, like all of us, has his problems. Like a couple of weeks ago, Mabel, that's his wife, she said to him...
Henry.
Oh,
Henry, put down the paper a minute and listen to me.
Oh, sorry, hon. What's on your mind?
The landlord.
Oh, him.
Says he won't paint the apartment unless we pay more rent.
Well, at least he's consistent. That's what he said 2 months ago, too.
I wish you'd speak to him. Isn't there a law or something?
Start making trouble, he'll slip us an eviction notice or something.
He said there were plenty of people who would love to live in this apartment without paint, for more money than we pay. He said there was a long waiting list of people who just...
Those...
Censored.
We're just trying to get some more of his...
Censored.
Friends to move into this neighborhood.
Now, cut it out, Henry. Stop it. If you mean Negro or Chinese or Jew or Catholic, then say it. Stop using those nasty words about people who happen to be of different religions or races. Cut it out. I won't have it.
I forgot to mention that Henry has another typical habit. He uses too many nasty words, the kind of words that most insult and disgrace the humanity of the person who uses them. With Henry, the temptation to use words like that is always strongest when he feels put upon, when he's upset by some fancied grievance against the world in general. The next day, Henry was whistling as he cleaned the last papers off his desk at the end of the day. Just then, Joe Burke paused at Henry's desk. Remember Burke, Henry's boss?
Hi there, Henry.
Oh, hello, Mr. Burke.
Feeling pretty lively, aren't you?
Well, it's always good to look forward to the weekends, you know. Not that I don't enjoy the work, you understand, but...
Know just how you feel, Henry. Yep, felt the same way myself this evening. Something in the air. Tell you what, why don't we stop off together and have a little drink on the way home?
A little drink? I never drank.
Well, come along. We'll have time for just one before I have to be home. Never keep the little woman waiting. Secret of domestic happiness, my boy.
Well, now, this is more like it. Henry's feeling pretty good as he walks out with the boss, gets into the elevator with him, goes down to the street, walks along beside him, talking just as natural. Henry and Mr. Burke. Buddies. Pals. They find themselves a booth, sit down, light cigarettes, get into conversation about this and that, gossip about the office.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm afraid things are going to look a lot worse before they get any better.
Look worse, Mr. Burke?
The riffraff we have to do business with these days. Those...
Censored.
Up from the south, moving into our neighborhoods, crowding us, forcing us to move.
Censored.
Foreigners, crowding us out of our jobs.
Yes. It's terrible, all right.
Black, yellow, mongrel races, all kinds of religions. You and I, Henry, people like us who come of good, pure stock, we're being pushed around too much.
That's right, Mr. Burke.
Another drink.
Well, no, I don't think so, thanks.
Just one more round. I tell you, Henry, after all, when you think about it, it's us who have the brains and the know-how. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
We got to stand together.
That's right.
Before it's too late. Before we're all mongrelized and the best of the human race disappears forever.
Well, it's not every day the boss buys you a couple of drinks and gets into serious, thoughtful type discussion with you. Henry's feeling pretty well set up now as he heads home. Cocky, even. Now he's out on the street again, headed for his house, riding along, steps just a little bigger than usual. Right in the middle of the sidewalk, somebody coming along from the opposite direction, reading a newspaper, almost bumps into him.
Where do you think you're going?
Oh, sorry, mister.
Why don't you watch where you're going?
Well, excuse me, I was on my...
Stupid. You ought to stay down south where you belong.
Say, now listen here, mister.
There is, inside every one of us, a little green devil of prejudice and hate. Hate for what is different from ours and our way, whether of race, of religion, skin color, or way of speech. It was this little green devil inside Henry that prompted him to say what he said. The funny thing, now that Henry has been good and pugnacious, upholding his idea of how he's better because he's different, he doesn't feel better. Matter of fact, he feels worse. Doesn't realize it yet, though. All he realizes is that he's good and sore. So he just goes plowing along down the block until suddenly, whack, he bangs into somebody else.
Say, mister, you must be in a hurry.
So what?
Oh, so a fella can't even cross the sidewalk to go in his own house without being...
You live here? In this house?
That's right.
Well, why don't you go back where you came from?
Same green devil again. Well, now Henry's almost home. He's just said something he thinks is pretty clever. But do you think he's relishing it? Feeling that he's a pretty smart fellow after all? Taking satisfaction in his quick wit? You'd think he would be. But all that's boiling up in old Henry is resentment, irritation, getting hotter under his collar every minute. Oh, and here he comes now down the corridor. Careful, Henry. Temper.
Where's that light switch?
Look out now, Henry.
Oh.
Oops. That was the umbrella stand. And what happens to the umbrella stand now? It gets a good kick from Henry's right foot.
No!
Logical result, of course.
Well, teach you to hurt my foot.
That was the lamp on the hall table. Score, 1 broken bulb, 1 broken vase. And, of course, by this time...
Henry, what's going on out there?
Never mind.
But I heard... Oh, Henry, our new lamp.
Well, it's all the fault of those...
Censored.
And
Censored.
if they'd stayed where they belong instead of coming around here...
What are you talking about?
Never mind what I'm talking about. They'll find out all right. We're standing together.
Henry White, you've been drinking.
Well, what if
You march right into the bathroom and wash up. You've held up dinner as it is for over 20 minutes. What you need is a good bowl of hot soup.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. Of course, another thing Henry needs is to get a good grip on the green devil inside him and tell it to drop dead. But Henry is in no condition to do that now. Over dinner, he just keeps saying things like,
Next thing you know, they'll be moving right into our backyard and living there.
Well, who will, Henry?
Everybody. Why they go back where they belong? No brains. Bad blood.
Henry.
give your green devil a chance. Just give him a little leeway and he'll be all over you, putting new ideas in your head, suggesting new ways to hate more people. By the time dinner was over that Friday night, Henry had reached his green devil's logical conclusion.
Different. Can't have different people around all the time. Won't have them moving in and living in my backyard.
All right, you're all right, just as you say. Now, come along and get in bed.
Stand together.
Yes, that's right, dear. And when you wake up, you'll be all well again. 8 hours sleep, that's all you need.
Betty bye for Henry. Sleep. Nice sleep. And his green devil. He went to sleep, too. And during the night, a most astonishing dream came to Henry. He dreamed that the whole world had become so small that it could all fit into his backyard and all kinds of different people were living there. And at first he was very curious and very interested.
Now, how about that? Not bad, huh? For just one little backyard?
And then he ran into two people who seemed to have a familiar look.
Hello.
Hello. Who are you?
I'm Henry White. Who are you?
I'm Henry Black. Who are you?
I'm Henry Brown. How do you do?
How do you do?
How do you do?
Henry, who was white, had a funny dream one night. In his backyard when he looked out there, he found folks living from everywhere. African, Irish, Mexican, Jew. Henry said, how do you do? Howdy do, how do you do? Henry said, how do you do? Old green devil by his side. Devil said, will your race pride let you say, how do you do? To all these folks who are not like you, African, Chinese, Mexicans all, wanted to pay a friendly call, but they're old green devils, they whispered low. Henry's another race, you know. Each green devil in each ear whispered hate and whispered fear. Each green devil took delight in stirring up these folks to fight.
You're black.
You're brown.
You're white. You got a round head.
You got a flat head.
You got a skinny head. Your nose is thick.
Your nose is sharp.
I got no nose at all. I hate black folks.
I hate brown folks. I hate white folks.
I can let you.
I'd like to see you start it.
Cross that line. Knock this chip off.
Dashed you.
Double dashed you.
All right, you at
Hey, two for flinching. Two for flinching. Two for flinching.
Henry, wake up.
What's the matter? What's going on?
You were having a nightmare.
I guess so.
Was Henry all right? He lay in bed for quite a spell after his wife had waked him up, thinking about his dream.
Funny. The world's so small, it was in my backyard. All those people.
Henry was awake and thinking. but his green devil was still asleep. Henry finally went to sleep again, but he was troubled by his strange dream, wasn't sure why he'd had such a dream. Decided he didn't like it at all. But he didn't know what to do about it. The next morning...
Gee. Golly.
What now?
I must have put on quite an act last night.
You were noticeable.
I bet I was. Hey, what happened to the lamp?
You broke it? Kicked the umbrella stand and knocked the lamp right off the table.
Oh, boy. Sure smashed it. You think it could be fixed?
Maybe. Some of that, what do you call it, that special glue that they used to have?
We got any around the house?
Now listen, Henry. Don't you start fussing around trying to fix that lamp. If it's possible to fix it, it won't be after you get through with it.
Well, I like that.
Oh, darling, do me a favor. Let it alone. I'll get a man to come in and fix it.
A man? What man?
Well, there's a man opened up a repair shop down the block just a couple of weeks ago. Fixed Mrs. Bascom's china platter so you'd never notice it was broken. I'll get him to come over.
Well, be sure.
I'm sure.
And that's the way it happened. When she went out to do the weekend shopping, Mabel stopped off at the repair shop, and the man said, sure, he could come over and he'd bring the right kind of, to fix the lamp, if it could be fixed. So about the middle of the afternoon, when Henry was feeling much better, but still a little remorseful about the night before, and still puzzling over that dream, too, the repairman rang the bell, and Henry let him in. They both stood looking at the broken pieces for a moment.
That's it. Think you can fix it?
Yes, I think so. My, such a pretty lamp, too. The little boy broke it, maybe?
No, I did.
Oh,
What do you mean,
I meant nothing.
Oh. Mind if I look over your shoulder?
It gives you pleasure?
Well, I got nothing else to do.
So look.
You got an accent.
That is so.
You're a foreigner, maybe?
I am what you call a DP, a displaced person. I'm in America only a very short time. I was brought over by one of the American congregations of my church. You know the church around the corner.
You sure find yourself a line of work in a hurry.
That is what they say about America, isn't it? Land of opportunity.
Probably took some Americans' job away from them.
Oh, I do not think so. This little repair business, I began it myself.
Where are you from?
From Poland.
Poland, huh? There any...
Censored.
Or...
Censored.
In Poland?
Excuse me, I think I do not know what those words mean.
Any colored people. Negroes, Chinese, any people... Well, you know, different from me.
No. There are very few black-skinned or brown-skinned or yellow-skinned persons in Poland.
Say.
Yes?
You answered that question kind of funny.
Yes?
As
though perhaps I thought Dutch people are not different from you?
Yeah.
That's right, they are not different.
Say, you blind or something? Can't you see that their skin is different? Well?
A long time ago, say back at the time of Adam and Eve,
yes,
everybody was the same color, light brown, say a tan color.
What?
And then the people started migrating from one place to another. Some went to Africa and lived for many generations in the sun. Some went up north. Some went very far to the east. As they grew up, generation after generation, in different climates, under different conditions.
Yeah, their skins began to differ.
Yes, and this is the only difference.
Only difference? What about brains? White people have the biggest brains. Well, don't they?
Well, science has shown us that there are very small differences in average brain sizes. The largest average brain belongs to...
Us white people.
The Eskimos. The largest brain on record belongs to an imbecile. Bright people, like strong people, come in all colors.
Well, what about blood? There are blood differences.
Oh, that's right, sir. 4 different blood types.
Oh, well then.
The types are A, B, and O. You can find all these blood types in people of every skin color.
But
and chances are your blood is a different type than your wife's blood or your little boy's. Could be that if your little boy needed a transfusion, You might have to ask Mr. Black or Mr. Brown to get the transfusion, for theirs would be the right type, not yours.
Now, wait a minute. You got to admit that there are differences. White people have, they have more know-how, more inventiveness.
Not always. Brown people invented the wheel, black people first forged iron, yellow people invented movable type. All different colors of people got together and built civilization together. There's a tradition that the dust out of which man was fashioned came from all parts of the universe, colored red, black, white, and yellow. All men of whatever race, creed, color have an equal right to the bounties of the world, for all are descended from Adam.
Say, how come you know so much about all this?
Oh, in Krakow, where I come from, in Poland. I was a professor at a university before the war. I was an anthropologist, the kind of scientist who makes a study of peoples and their customs.
Oh. And, there really no differences? Except in skin color? Like that?
No differences. Except for the environment, what conditions bring about. People think there are these differences because they are insecure. Maybe they think they will lose their job or their money or their home or their health or their friends. And because they are insecure, they look for somebody to blame, and they pick out those who seem different because their skin is different or their religion is different or their language is different, and blame all their troubles on them.
Insecure. Yeah.
Crowding us out of our job. Good, pure stock. We are being pushed around too much. Got to stand together.
You said something?
No. I just thinking, sorry. Insecure, huh? Just because we're worried and afraid.
Yeah, so the scientists tell us, but here in this country there seems a little reason for this kind of worry. Here people can be thankful in America. Is that not why you have this holiday called Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Say.
Yes, sir. That's the lamp, all fixed now.
You give me an idea. Do you want to come and have Thanksgiving dinner here at this house on Thursday?
Oh, it would be honored to come.
Good. Where's my hat?
But where are you going?
A couple of fellas I got to look up right away, in a hurry before they make any other plans. You're the guy I bumped into in the street last night, aren't you?
Yes, I remember bumping into someone, but if it was
My
you...
wife and I want you to come over to Thanksgiving dinner at our house. Will you come? You the fellow was coming into the house last night when I ran into him outside on the sidewalk?
I think that's right, yes.
Good.
What do you mean, good? I'll have you
My
know
wife and I want you to come to Thanksgiving dinner at my house on Thursday. Here's the address. Can you be there?
Well,
Be there. Good. We'll be expecting you.
That's the fable. Henry White and Henry Black and Henry Brown to Thanksgiving dinner, and the new arrival in America was the real guest of honor. Somebody, I guess maybe it was Henry White, said what is the moral of this fable during the dinner. He said,
Today, science is proving to us what religion has taught ever since the beginning of time. The Bible story of Adam and Eve. That all the peoples of the earth are one single family and have a common origin.
For all of us who have learned this truth, this is in reality the Thanksgiving season.
Now we present Mr. Charles H. Silver, outstanding civic leader and member of the Board of Overseers of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, president of Beth Israel Hospital. Mr. Silver.
In the dramatic presentation which you have just heard, Henry dreamed that the whole world has become so small that it could fit in his backyard. All kinds of different people were living there. We in this glorious country of ours give thanks for the blessings that have been bestowed on us and have made us the most powerful nation on the earth. Yet, in giving voice to our gratitude, we must not forget that we are living in a world where we can reach the backyards of our neighbors in a matter of hours. For science has annihilated distance. The waters that surround us wash the shores of large and small nations. We talk to them over the telephone. We can fly to them quickly. They influence our economic and social thinking and planning. It is a world of many people speaking various languages, of diverse religious beliefs, white and black and yellow men and women and children, living in a world so closely knit that we seem to be rubbing elbows with them. We are engaged today in rebuilding this world that has been badly dislocated by the war. The little green devils of prejudice and hate and fear that afflict human beings must be eradicated if we are to have a solid peace, a world of many national backyards, with neighbors talking to each other in a spirit of amity and brotherhood. As you have just heard, basically there is no difference between people. The level of understanding their emotions run the same direction. All people, no matter what their race, color, or creed, have an equal right to the countries of the world. In this season of Thanksgiving, let us be grateful for the bounties we in this blessed land of ours have enjoyed. Let us pray and hope that our statesmen will have the capacity for leadership to guide us through the lanes of uncertainty to a happier and calmer era. Let us give thanks that despite the most staggering problems in the history of mankind, we have not faltered, but have thrown out a challenge to those forces which would destroy our democratic way of life.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. If you would like a free copy of today's script, please send your name and address with 10 cents to cover the cost of postage and handling to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York, 27, New York. Our Eternal Light drama today, In Henry's Backyard, was written by Peter Lyon and was adapted from the book In Henry's Backyard by Ruth Benedict and Gene Welfish. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Katims. The ballad was sung by Tom Glazer and written by Langston Hughes. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. Ralph Bell was featured as Henry, and the narrator was John Larkin. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. Free time to present The Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
eternal light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's story, The Sneeze of Schomele, was written by Alan Marcus. Featured as Schomele is Yaroslav Douglas, and Alexander Scorby is the narrator.
Who can tell where sunlight becomes shadow? Who can describe where a cloud touches the moon? Who knows the exact spot at which innocence turns into compassion? Who has marked the moment a child discards his guilelessness? These are questions it is necessary to ask, and there are many answers. But some people forget even to remember the questions anymore, and this story is especially for them. Long ago, near a green valley, there was a tiny village that grew between two forests. And for all anyone knows, it is growing still. But this story is not about the village. It's about a little boy named Schomele, and it tells of the various times that Schomele sneezed. Did you hear it? That was the first time. But let me tell you first a little about Schomele. You see, he wasn't a sickly child. On the contrary, he had brown eyes and red cheeks and could run faster than any possum. In the forest where Schomele played most of the time, you could hardly tell him apart from his friends, like Aleph the rabbit, Gimel the woodchuck, Dalid the fox, Solomon the owl, and all the rest throughout the whole forest. But there were two strange things about Schomele, and this was the first. Although he was only a small boy, he could speak several languages, like the fox language and the tongue of the owl and the dialect of the woodchuck. There was no trouble at all for him to talk to them. But, in fact, these were the only kinds of languages he knew how to speak. For you see, although Schomele was bright enough and could tell without even thinking how many strands of twig it took to build a robin's nest, for some reason, he had never learned to speak in the words of men. And naturally, this left his mother Tamar a little disappointed. And almost every night she'd say,
Schomele, it's time to go to bed now. You've stayed up late enough. Say good night to your father. Schomele, are you listening to me? I asked you to say good night now.
Tamar, don't tease the boy. You know he can't speak.
Not him I'm teasing, Isaac. It's Tamar. Every day I tell myself, tomorrow will be the day for him to speak, or the day after tomorrow, or if not, then surely next week. It's always next week or the week after for 11 years. Yet still I tease myself. Isaac, your wife is a foolish old woman.
Foolish old woman? Where? I don't see any foolish old women around here.
I see. Perhaps I should learn to stop my teasing. After all, who is richer than we? What other woman has a son with this special kind of talent? You could even call it a kind of genius, couldn't you, Isaac?
Absolutely. Remember when Lady Maya's cow was sick? Who talked to it and persuaded it to start eating again? And what about Ezekiel's goat? Who found it when it ran away from home? I tell you, our Schomele is blessed. Even if he can't speak to us. Is that what you were going to say? Well, tomorrow's another day, Tamar, and after that there will be another. And one of these days, you'll see, you'll speak as well as you or I. I
know, you have a feeling. Well, so have I, Isaac, and right now my feeling is that it's way past a certain young man's bedtime. Come, Schomele, it's time to go to sleep. You want to stay up all night, sleepyhead?
many worlds, and sometimes it is possible to inhabit more than one at the same time. Have you ever tried it? The sky is a world, and the sea is another. But for Schomele, there were two others. There was first of all the comfortable world enclosed by the log walls of his parents' cottage, with its patience and warmth, where on rainy days he could sit before a fire and hear the rain. This was his number one world, and it was very fine indeed. But there was also another world, even more private and special. And for Schomele, this second world was something beyond description. It was light and dark, wide and narrow, level and steep, mysterious and friendly. And the name of this second world was the forest. Have you ever walked in a forest? Every day, Schomele would get up early, eat his breakfast, do his chores, listen while his father said morning prayers, and then off like an eagle he'd run, past the tool shed, around the meadow, out through the clover field, and deep into the heart of his private world number 2. And the forest would welcome Schomele. Its secret places unlocked themselves for him. The bees would bring honey from their hives. Hickory nuts would fall at his feet. Even the wind would remember to lift the leaves of the oak trees and push aside the brambles of the wild rose bushes. And all of his friends, like Aleph the rabbit,
Hi, Schomele.
Gimel the woodchuck,
Greetings, Schomele, old pal.
Dalid the fox,
Hello there, Schomele.
and Solomon the owl
How do you do, Schomele, my boy?
would follow him to the little clearing by the matov tree, which was the very center of his second world. But this brings me to the second strange thing about Schomele, for it was just around this time that the sneeze occurred. They still talk about it in the forest. And as I recall, it came about in the following way. Gimel the woodchuck had called a meeting to order in the clearing by the matov tree.
Quiet. Quiet, everybody. Solomon wants to say something. Go ahead, Solomon.
Well, what I wanted to say was, I think it's about time we did something about the sorrow of Yaakov, the scarecrow. It's not really fair.
What's not fair, Solomon?
Quiet. Let him finish, Olive. Go ahead, Solomon.
I mean, it's not fair that Yaakov is no longer a scary scarecrow. I ask you, what's more sad than a scarecrow who no longer scares? Yesterday, I flew over Yaakov, and he didn't even have the heart to look at me.
But what can we do, Solomon? How can we help it if Yaakov has become unscary?
Dolly, let Solomon finish. Go on, Solomon.
I don't know what we can do, but we should think about it. After all, Yaakov has been good to everyone here. Look at all the times he let us have a snack of corn from his field.
True, he always let us know when Farmer Joseph was away.
And he did always warn us when Joseph was coming back.
But what can we do? Are there any suggestions? Schomele, what do you think?
Friends, I think what Yaakov the Scarecrow needs is a new hat. A hat gives a scarecrow character. If we could get him a new hat, it would give him new confidence. Then he might have the courage to become scary again.
A new hat. Wonderful.
Everyone knows a scarecrow is only as scary as his hat.
But wait a minute. Before we go patting ourselves on the back, where are we going to get a new hat?
Gimel.
You have another idea, Schomele?
No, but Gimel, I have a new hat.
And so it happened that Schomele's new hat came to rest on the demoralized head of Yaakov the Scarecrow. And behold, he, Yaakov, was demoralized no longer. His face scowled, his hands scolded. He was his old, scary self again. And that night, back in his world number 1, Schomele wrote down for his father to read,
I have given my new hat away to someone who needs it more than I do. Tell Mama not to be angry, please. I don't need a new hat anyway.
Tamar, you see what Schomele wrote?
I saw.
And?
Schomele, come here.
What are you going to do, Tamar?
I told you we were rich, Isaac. Oh, look how tall Schomele is getting. He's almost up to my shoulder.
But, Tama, the hat, the new hat.
Oh, please, Isaac, tomorrow we will talk about the hat. There are certain times when it is absolutely necessary to give one's hat away. Ask Schomele. Let us discuss the hat tomorrow.
And then Schomele wandered out of the house into a field drowned with stars. And there he stood between his two wonderful worlds, and the night was full of melody, and something in Schomele started to sing. There was a contentment in him which started deep down in the crevices of his toes, traveled up to his knees, passed swiftly through his lungs, and then got so big and so irresistible it had to come out somewhere. And it bubbled through to his nose, and the first thing you knew... In the forest, they thought it was a typhoon. And in the cottage, they thought it was a lion. But later, they came to recognize it as the first sneeze of Schomele. Now, actually, the scientific explanation was simple. What happened scientifically was that joy acted as a chemical catalyst, activating the follicles in the nasal passages until enough vibration had been registered to produce a convulsive precipitation. In other words, Schomele sneezed. In the days that followed, however, Schomele sneezed only rarely. It was a little mysterious. There had to be just the right amount of contentment and peace, and no one could tell exactly when it would happen. One time, for example, Schomele was in the clearing by the matog tree discussing some problems of life with three of his friends, Aleph the rabbit, Gimel the woodchuck, and Solomon the owl.
I tell you, Schomele, I'm a little afraid. I don't like it at all.
Like what, Aleph?
I don't like what's going to happen to you when you grow up. First thing you know, you'll be spending most of your time indoors hiding from the sun and collecting those oblong paper leaves like other men.
Oh, those aren't leaves, Aleph. That's money you're talking about.
Money? What's that? What kind of a tree does it grow on?
Anybody knows that money doesn't grow on trees, empty head. It's dug up from the ground.
No, you're both wrong, Solomon. Money is just something men make for themselves, that's all.
Is it something to eat?
Well, not exactly.
Can you wear it?
Well, no. You can't wear money exactly itself.
Then what good is it? I don't like it. I'd rather have a pineapple tree.
I'd rather have a bunch of maple leaves to sleep on.
Well, you see, money is something men collect and then give to other men for things they need, like food and so on.
Tell me, Schomele, this making of money, does it take much of a man's time?
Well, my Uncle Aaron spends all day at it, sometimes nights. Sometimes we don't see him for a month.
And does he exchange it for things? I mean, how much sleep does he get for it?
Well, to tell the truth, Solomon, my Uncle Aaron doesn't sleep very well.
Was he able to get a nice family with it? I think a family is the best thing anyone can have, including woodchucks.
Well, Uncle Aaron never notices things like families because he's so busy. And besides, no one ever wanted to live with my Uncle Aaron, ever since I can remember.
If I had a lot of something to exchange for anything I wanted, I bet I'd give a big party and invite all my friends. And I bet I'd fill up this whole clearing with friends of mine.
But if you were busy collecting money like Uncle Aaron, Aleph, you wouldn't have anybody here. Because you'd never have time to know hardly anybody. So how could you fill up the whole clearing with friends?
Schomele, from what you say, I can't see anything so wonderful in this money-making business. Frankly, I wouldn't care for it. I wouldn't care for it at all.
Neither would I.
Me neither.
And, Schomele, let me tell you something. If you get tired of it any time, you can always come to my tree and eat all the persimmons you want. And there are plenty of things you can have all around here, and you won't need money at all.
That's right, Schomele. Ditto for me.
Me too, Schomele.
What's the matter, Schomele? Did we say something wrong? Don't you feel well?
It's going to happen again. Better grab hold of something.
Duck, everybody. Here it comes, duck.
Everybody all right? Olive?
Okay.
Gimel?
All secure.
Schomele? Schomele!
Here I am, Solomon, up here. I sneezed so hard, I sneezed myself up in your tree. Here, help me get down.
A year is not too long, but the small boy can grow astonishingly. And Schlomele's toes stretched and his head reached up, and there was an even greater quickness in him. And the moons thinned and the moons grew fat. The persimmon tree closed its eyes. The forest undressed and went to sleep with frost in its hair. And then everyone yawned, and before you knew it, spring was there again in the clearing by the matov tree. And that was when Schlomele decided to investigate a certain matter.
Olive, I've decided to find out something. Will you and Solomon come with me?
Come where, Schomele?
I want to find out about the synagogue. Every seventh day, my father and mother go to the village to the synagogue. Every seventh morning, all through the year. And here I am a year older, and still they say, no, Schomele. Stay home, Schomele. Solomon, have you ever seen the synagogue?
Why, I've flown over it, I guess.
And you, Olive?
Well, perhaps I've seen it a few times.
You see, everyone but me. Even Velvo the donkey sees it. He told me. Haven't I a right? Isn't it supposed to be for everyone?
He's right, Olive. The synagogue is for everyone.
Listen, Schomele, if we go with you, please, not a sound. I don't want your father to come after me with a rod.
Oh, I'll be careful. I'll be careful as a caterpillar.
It's pretty risky.
Please, Solomon.
Well, all right, Schomele. But remember, not a sound.
Stay home, Schlomele. It's better if you don't come, Schlomele. They thought that not to be able to say the prayers would be too much of an embarrassment. But how was a small boy to know? And who was to tell him? So down across the meadow, through the street of the Orioles, across the square of the elders, and up to the window of the synagogue.
Olive, it's like something in a dream.
Don't be silly. Even a rabbit knows it's only the Sabbath service. See, there's your father in the fourth row. And see, there's your mother.
Olive, I am going inside.
No, you can't. You mustn't, Schomele.
I told you we shouldn't have come. Now we'll all be cooked.
I have to. I just have to, Olive.
No, wait. Listen, Schomele. Come back.
It was miraculous. It was unbelievable. But it happened. He, Schlomele, actually sitting in the back during Sabbath service. And not only that, but a few seats away sat his father. Only he didn't look like Schlomele's father. All the men in the synagogue had the same brooding look of love, and it filled the interior and illuminated the faces. And then suddenly, as the cantor said, "He who makes peace in the high places, may he make peace for us," suddenly...
courtesy to...
Almost down. He blew the arc shut.
Look, the light was almost blown out.
Who is that back there? Stand up, stand up. Where's this outrageous sneezing coming from?
Look. There he goes. It's only a child.
Stop him, somebody. He's heading for the door. Stop him.
But Schomele had already vanished, and in the midst of the tumult, Isaac, his father, rose.
Rabbi Nachman, I'm extremely humiliated. I apologize for the interruption. I should like to beg the congregation's pardon.
But why, Isaac? Why should you apologize?
Rabbi, the boy who just ran from the synagogue was our son, Schomele, whom we have expressly forbidden ever to come here. You see, Rabbi, Schomele is not like the sons of other men. This sneezing of his happens when other men are full of a proper kind of joy. And not only that, the poor boy has never even been able to talk a civilized tongue. All he knows is the gibberish of forest animals. Of course, I'm not complaining. It is my proper burden. He's my son. But I must apologize again for the interruption of the service. I will see that certainly doesn't happen again.
He sat down. The congregation was full of murmuring.
Shall we proceed with the service, Reb Nachman?
No, Jacob. Stop.
But Reb Nachman, we were just...
Listen to me, Jacob. Fellow worshippers, listen to me. A text has been given to us, and we cannot refuse it. It is written, "Let my cry come near thee, O my Lord. Give me understanding according to thy word." But tell me, where is understanding here in this congregation? What do prayers mean that are repeated week after week with one eye on the prayer book and one eye on the door? You, David, whose oxen died last week from overwork. And you, Joachim, whose poor cousin was turned away from your door. And you, Isaac, whose son was frightened from the synagogue. And all the rest of you. Where is the great piety your prayers profess? I, Rabbi Nachman, tell you that the sneezing of one small child contains more piety than all your accumulated praying. Consider the text. Let my cry come near thee, O my Lord. Give me understanding according to thy word.
Why are you leaving the pulpit, Reb Nachman? The service is not quite over. What about the supplementary prayers?
These supplementary prayers are declared suspended. We must go and bring that child back into the synagogue.
It was the strangest procession the village had ever seen. The whole congregation followed Reb Nachman through the square of the elders, across the street of the Orioles, down by the meadow, and up behind the bush near the Matov tree. But when they got there, they could hardly believe their eyes or their ears.
Isaac, look, it's Schomele, with the animals lined up like a sort of congregation.
And Tama. Do you hear? His language. I can understand what he's saying. I can understand it.
Wait. Listen.
Olive and Gimel and you too, Dalit, and all the rest of you, even though you can't understand what I'm saying anymore. But I'll try to explain it anyway. I guess you were right. I never should have gone to the synagogue. I thought it was a place where you could talk to God. Anyone could. And no one would mind if you had to sneeze. Because who made sneezing in the first place? But that was all wrong. You saw how they got angry, chased me out. That was when I got this terrible pain inside. And the next thing I knew, I was talking the language of my father's world. It was sort of like waking up from a dream that you never really had at all. But that sounds crazy. I don't understand it at all. But I know one thing for sure. I sure wish I could get my dream back.
And behold, the words of Schomele grew loud and entered deep into the hearts of the congregation. And Rabbi Nachman went up to him and took him by the hand and embraced him, saying,
Come, Schomele. What's happened is only the miracle of manhood. And we're all the same now, you and I and Isaac and all the rest. And you'll discover one day that everyone tries to get back a dream, Schomele. As many dreams as there are names to count. Now come, we'll go back to the synagogue together.
And behold, the procession turned and marched away. And the path of the forest changed slowly back again into a village street. But who can tell where sunlight becomes shadow? Who knows when innocence turns into compassion? Who has marked with accuracy the place where two worlds touch? If Schomele had become part of a congregation of men, there was a portion of the congregation itself that had renewed acquaintanceship with God. And in the synagogue there was joy, and a psalm of thanksgiving was sung. And these were its words: Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven. Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord imputeth not iniquity. Blessed is he in whose spirit there is no guile.
If you would like a copy of today's script, please send your name and address with 10 cents to cover the cost of postage and handling to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. Our Eternal Light drama today, The Sneeze of Schomele, was written by Alan Marcus. The music was composed by Morris Mamorsky and conducted by Milton Cadence. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. Featured as Schomele was Yaroslav Douglas, and Alexander Scorby was the narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Taft. Free time to present The Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.